you have traveled 100 meters for every.
Yes. Like you said, when I was going to space and coming back, I always had this thought that I've been very fortunate to have gotten this chance. Coming back, I started sharing this journey with kids.
That one should be prepared to face. Now the question comes, mentally or physically?
Both.
So when you do training, and exactly how much time it took?
So it's a gradual build-up of sorts.
What you were also suggesting is to start bachelor in space.
I would recommend you to, yes.
So what did you grow there?
I took moong and methi seeds with me.
Any message to youngsters?
First of all, enjoy what they're doing. Continue working hard and not giving up. I think that is what my message is.
Okay. Namaskar and welcome to IITH podcast. I'm Dr. Ashok Kumar Pandey. I'm a Dean Academics over here at IIT Hyderabad. In mechanics, when we design any system, we look for reducing the noise or the system free of vibration. But we never look at how the human is undergoing the changes when he or she travels in that system. So today we are very much fortunate to have a man who has experienced how the human system experience different types of variations when one goes to space. Welcome to Captain Shubhanshu Shukla ji.
Thank you, sir.
And it is our honor to have you over here.
The pleasure is all mine.
And many congratulations for bringing out your memoir in terms of the second orbit. And of course, we are very much ensure it will really inspire a lot of billions of people. As you always say, you have traveled 100 meters for every.
Yes.
So please.
I hope so. So it is that.
So you would like to know a little bit about what made you write this particular book?
What made me write this particular book? Like you said, when I was going to space and coming back, I always had this thought that I've been very fortunate to have gotten this chance, representing India on an international forum, the International Space Station outside of Earth. And I've always believed that even though I was the one traveling, this journey always belonged to every citizen of India. And coming back, I started sharing this journey with kids and talking to them and telling them how it all happened. And I saw the curiosity and excitement in their eyes. And I also very soon realized that we are a country of 1.4 billion people, right? It is not possible for you to reach everyone.
Right.
And there were a few people who suggested me to put it down in some form so that it can be shared, and makes it easier for people to access it, whoever wants to know. So that was the thought which got me started. And I started writing this and really enjoyed. It was challenging, but it was a very pleasurable experience as well, because I got to relive those experiences that I had already had, while I was traveling to space.
Yeah. So, but I must congratulate you that you did it in exactly 1 year.
Yes, and I think part of it can be attributed to this decision that was taken very early on, that we will launch it on the anniversary of launch, which is 25th of June.
Yeah.
So when we set the date, you had that date over there, and from there, I'm designed to work in backwards in calculating your timelines and then having checkpoints and finishing them. So I think that helped a lot, having a date in mind.
So please tell us, when you do the training to go to International Space Station, and actually you went through, if we have to say that your training was 100% same as that, what is your remark on that?
It is same. It is quite accurate. All the attempts are made towards ensuring that the training scenarios are as realistic as possible. So the space capsule that we go in, Crew Dragon, and the one that we train in on ground in California, there is no difference. It is exactly same. On the launch day before the launch, when I was sitting there strapped up in the capsule, I just felt that as if I'm sitting in one of the simulator sessions. That was the feeling that I had.
I see.
So it is quite accurate in terms of representation of controls, systems, actuators, interfaces between human and the machine. All of that is really, really accurately done. So, and the intent is to make the astronaut really comfortable with the machine when they are eventually going. Uh, but the environment is not possible to be simulated. And that is the delta which is there.
Right.
Like you can practice launch G forces in a centrifuge,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not launch because launch is comprised of many more things. The sound, the vibrations, the feeling of it all. That is not possible for you to be simulated. It will happen only on the day that the rocket launches. Similarly, when you get to space, the microgravity, the zero G.
Right.
We can simulate it for a short period of time through parabolic flights,
Mm-hmm.
but like the body only feels sustained effects when you are there for longer period of time.
Right.
So which only happens when you get to space. So these are the changes. The environment, which cannot be really accurately simulated, is the delta.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, the systems and the simulators are designed in a way to make it as much realistic as possible for the astronauts.
So, and you're saying that delta is the important thing.
Yes,
That
delta
one
is
should be prepared to face. Now the question comes: mentally or physically?
both. Physically, a lot of training happens which prepares you for scenarios, but I think mental preparation is more important. If you have convinced yourself in your mind about a situation, about how you're going to handle it, I think your body eventually finds a way to do it. It is mental strength is definitely very important.
Okay. So, under this G variation, what affects more, muscles distortion or the fluid movement?
Both happen, and obviously you are aware about all these things. How it changes. So I think both happens at a different scale.
Mhm.
The fluid distortion happens almost immediately when you go to space. How your the vestibular system that you have, the semicircular pillars and the otolith organs that you have, their gravity is not there anymore, and so they are designed in a way to sense gravity. And when it is not there, it just confuses your brain what is happening. So it results in symptoms like nausea, headache, confusion. All these things happen when you reach space immediately. In the initial few days.
Mhm.
You also don't use your muscles at all. Right now we are sitting here, and while standing or while turning, you use your muscles.
Mm.
But when you are in space, you don't use them at all. So you lose them. You lose it very, very quickly.
Okay.
That is why it is required by long duration crew on the International Space Station to exercise for 2 hours every day, mandatorily. It's non-negotiable. So to preserve the muscle, because otherwise there is no load on the muscle. It is very effortless to be in space. You're just floating in air. There is no resistance of any sort. So it is very, very convenient, but it plays a havoc on your muscles.
Okay. So when you do training, and exactly how much time it took to perfect, the conditions that people think that now you're ready to go into this.
So it's a gradual build up of sorts, like I would say. Because we are sitting in an engineering institution, right, and we have graduate and master's program, and they are also built upon layers of foundational theory and then getting to advanced subjects. Like you take a graduate program, the first year is telling basics of everything. That is going to be the foundation of the course that we are going to do, and then we build up on those foundations to go to specific things that you are going to use those foundations for. So astronaut training is also of similar nature. So first 2 years go into something known as basic astronaut training, which is basically teaching you about the theory of space flight. How does orbital maneuvering happen? How does a space system work? What does redundancy mean? What does it mean by functional redundancy, component level redundancy, system level redundancy? How so all these terms that are unique to such an environment, and all this knowledge, it is imparted in the first 2 years through the basic astronaut training. And then you get to the specialized part of the training, which is mission specific. Like you're getting into a particular mission. Like I was going as the pilot for Axiom 4 mission, so I would do specific to that mission. That training would be done. Globally, I would say on an average, it takes about 4.5 years for an astronaut to fly.
So
to
it's
space.
like doing undergrad.
It's like doing an undergrad in space. Yes.
With extensional to practical.
Yes.
So in fact, what you were also suggesting is to start bachelor in space.
I would recommend you to, yes, because India is standing at a point wherein we are trying to pursue space very ambitiously.
Mm.
We have set for ourselves some really big goals. Let's say Mission Gaganyaan, launching astronauts to
Yes.
space and bringing
Yes.
them back. Then we have Bharatiya Antariksh Station, which is making our own space station.
Mhm.
Imagine such a big engineering challenge. It is, right? It is not an easy task to do.
Right.
And then eventually landing on moon. So all these are very big ambitions.
Mm.
And the capital is available in the country.
Yes.
IITs are one of the best places to have those minds which can really contribute to these fields.
Mm.
So I would definitely encourage you to look at starting a space vertical, which would allow us to have people who are interested,
Mhm.
who want to contribute to these fields, and they get a chance to come and be a part of it and make it for us. And it is not just through like ISRO is definitely one of the biggest
Right.
avenues for them to join, but
Mm.
the private sector is also coming up very rapidly in this domain. So it is available. It is a new discipline that is evolving in India,
Okay.
and I think it is going to be very exciting for the students as well.
Sure. So we will, as a dean academics, I will definitely look into and discuss it with faculty. So now when we come to these structures, because you have experienced from zero to all, and being a fighter pilot to astronaut. So what do you think right now in India? That are you saying the whole ecosystem is lacking, or we have something and then from there on we should start?
No, we definitely have something because see, ISRO has been the backbone for space exploration in the country.
Yes.
And fortunately for us, we have a good backing in terms of technical knowledge of how space systems work. The launch vehicles, let's say, the payloads that go to space. So this has been the expertise, and so a lot of institutional knowledge exists. It is not that we are starting from scratch. But getting into the domain of human spaceflight requires a different mindset. To be adopted.
Yes.
And so the heritage definitely comes in handy because of the experience we have. But at certain points, it may also become a roadblock because you need to do something in a very different way. But we have been doing something in a very different way. So the inertia to change to this new concept may sometimes may become too much. But I'm very happy that it is going in the right direction. But we definitely need a very big and a very different kind of an ecosystem to conduct and also sustain human space missions. It is not just one mission we are talking about. We are talking about regular repeated missions over a period of decades. So that you need to have a very robust infrastructure.
Okay.
And see, I'll just give you one example, sir, that once you have the space station, Bharatiya Antariksh Station in space, it is available with you 24/7, 365.
Okay.
To conduct science.
Yeah.
Imagine the kind of platform that you have.
Mm.
Now, how do you decide from a country like India what science is to be done? How do you enable that science? What research areas to be focused on? So it is a huge activity, and the entire framework has to be established. Which is the body which is going to decide all this?
Mm-hmm.
How do we home on to a particular science that goes to space? Who controls that time? How do we get the data? How do we analyze? All these things have to be evolved into a very robust framework.
So I'll come little late for the information related with the experiment that you conducted. Interesting. But before that, let's say you have been given opportunity to design UG program in space.
Yes.
How would you decide semester wise, like a very broad way?
Yeah. No, I think I have thought about this because what has happened is that traditionally we have aerospace in our country, and aerospace kind of evolved for the scenario that we had when the aerospace was created, and it is primarily designed towards aero and launch vehicles. That is what
mostly the focus would be the vehicles. But human was missing.
Human was missing, because we never had that. Now it is such a big field. When you put a human in a spacecraft. Now, launch vehicle is probably the most complex of technologies for a satellite mission.
Yes.
When it goes.
Yes.
Satellite is complex, but in terms of degree of complexity, probably the launch vehicle ranks higher. Now, when you put a human on board, the complexity of the satellite or the spacecraft that is going, it jumps, by magnitudes. It is not the same anymore. So, simple things like designing a robust environmental and environmental control and life support system. That in itself is a huge challenge. And you talk about open loop and closed loop. When you talk about closed loop, it is an even bigger challenge.
Even in the loop.
human in the loop, and also even if the system has to be closed loop, that the resources that you are using like air and water, you don't have indefinite supply for them. So how do you recycle them continuously? ISS today recycles 98% water. That is the level that they have reached. So all these things have to be thought and designed and developed on that, right? And then to ensure the safety of the crew, you need to have a very robust caution and warning system, a system which identifies failures, system which flags failures, system which allows you to intervene and prevent anything catastrophic from happening, like at every level. So it is a huge challenge. It is a complete engineering domain in itself. And one major aspect which we really need to develop, which also I am working on currently, is the system engineering concept. When it came because the systems became very complex, and one system was affecting other systems, so it became system of systems. Same thing happened when human came into the loop. It became another kind of system, but a system which affects every system, and every system affects this particular system.
Yes.
So NASA gave it a term of human system integration. HSI. It was a different discipline that they started, which is what I am working on right now with ISRO.
Okay.
And it is absolutely fascinating to think of how do you integrate human into the design from step one. That is what is being thought, which happens in other fields also, like automotive industry or aviation industry also it happens, and space is probably the pinnacle of where it happens. But human factors and human system engineering is one of the biggest disciplines that is going to be required for human space. So yes, the syllabus, the curriculum for a graduate program in space engineering would look very different from what it is for aerospace engineering. Maybe basics can be taught in the first year, but then the specialization would need teaching about human factors, human system engineering, the environmental control and life support systems, and how sustaining life, all those kind of things. Space medicine is going to be a big part of it, right? So all of these are different things which we have never done, but now we need to address them and teach the kids.
So in fact, the human behavior,
Psychology.
because it's like humans are not accustomed to discipline like a system, right? So there may be
Yes.
1% of
Yes.
error that they can, it will affect the whole system, right? So
Absolutely.
so that's what you were saying, human integrated system.
Yeah, so HSI, when I say HSI involves multiple aspects, it's not just one. When you start HSI, one aspect is how do you integrate the human into the design from step one. Now, when you start doing that, you have to do two things. One is HCTA, which is human centered task analysis. Like, how do you think, okay, this is the task that the human is supposed to do with the system. So you go through the task and you see, okay, what can be optimized, what cannot be optimized, and all those things you do. And the second thing that you do is the human error analysis, what you were saying.
Okay.
What if the human makes an error while interacting with the system? So if he makes an error, you look at the design and how do you use design to prevent that error?
Closed loop. Closed loop.
First is prevention. How do you design so that the error doesn't happen?
Okay.
But it is not foolproof. There will still be some places wherein the error may happen. So now you analyze whether the error, if it happens, is catastrophic or non-catastrophic, which category it falls in. And when you decide that for catastrophic, definitely there has to be fallback option for the system to recover from that situation. Something has to be built in because otherwise it is going to be catastrophic. So this is what happens at every step, and it evolves. And again, it can be a full discipline in itself, for teaching.
So if let us say few disciplines have to come together to develop such kind of program or expertise, because I see that it's not just the machine or the craft, it is like the wear, then other things and all comes up. So what do you recommend that?
So I'm thinking that in this podcast you are designing your the
syllabus for
graduate
for everyone. So but India has to design it.
So again, I would say start with the foundational basics of space because that is first step that is required. How do systems behave in space? And then when we add human into it, so we ourselves also creating a kind of a flow diagram which tells us that what are the various verticals that we have to look at. How do you integrate humans and where in design it comes in. So you have to assess the system for whether it is going to be used by humans or not, in what capacity. Only monitoring, usage, depending on it for survival, or there are several categories. Then you move on which phase of mission it is going to be used. Training, pre-launch, launch, on orbit. So you define the phases of the mission. Then you define the criticality of the system. Is the failure of the system going to be catastrophic for humans or not? And so you create these verticals, and then you come down to the next level, and you derive your system requirements from this stage. And once your system requirements are derived, then you do these analysis. What I was telling you, you do traditional standard practices of doing FMECA, fault tree analysis. All of that has to be done for the system design.
Right.
But in addition, you have to do the human-centered task analysis, human error analysis. All these kind of things have to be done. Human in the loop testing. All these things have to happen. So to come down with the result. So this will become at every step can become I would say a course in this particular graduate program. But we can obviously discuss in detail about this,
sure,
but
sure.
I think that this is definitely feasible.
So I'm really happy to know that our thought towards the human behavior and cognitive science,
Yes,
involving even the liberal arts people,
yes,
and all.
it is very essential. The
Yes.
design of the sleeping quarters, there is so much of psychology that goes into it.
Right.
Why do we need let's say 2.3 meter cube for an individual for a sleeping quarter?
Mm.
Do you need 2.3 for a 2-day mission, or do you need 2.3 for a 6-day mission, or do you need 2.3 for a 30-day mission or 180-day mission? It changes with the length of your duration. The volume requirement changes to maintain the sanity of the crew. So it is very important what you are mentioning. It is really important to include all these aspects into the design of systems, because finally it is a human going up there.
Yes.
It is human behavior.
Right.
How does human behave in his or her conditions is a discipline that needs to be studied.
Yes. And you will also be happy to know that we launched first biomedical bachelor degree program here few like 4-5 years back.
Congratulations.
Now perhaps we will club LA and biomed
Yes.
to get into the human system
absolutely,
and all
absolutely.
that. So thank you for giving that direction.
Awesome.
Now coming to other than the human, the plants. What do you eat?
In space,
What you used to eat?
food is carried is similar to what we eat here. Like for our program also, DRDO's DFRL lab is making food for us, and so the food that you see is kati roll, paratha, khichdi, and all these kind of things.
You also mentioned during that time you brought something that your mother gave you.
No. that are stories. You cannot take something that your mother gives you to space. It doesn't work like that. But again, from DFRL, a lot of food items we were trying to fly to International Space Station so that they get qualified. But the only 3 that could be qualified in time were gajar ka halwa, moong dal ka halwa, and amras. 3 things I could take with me.
So 3 of them are very typical Indian.
Yes. These are the
Did you
3 things.
share also with your?
Yeah, I didn't get the chance to eat it. It was all eaten by everybody else. Yes.
Nice. So what did you grow there? And I you also were mentioning you took some plants and
Experiments,
also
yes.
observed.
Yes. So 7 different experiments I took with me. Different kinds, different nature, but the intent was primarily that the results of these experiments would somehow feed into our own human space mission in the future. That is what the intent was. So I took moong and methi seeds with me to see whether they sprout well in space. They have medicinal values. Methi definitely has help, good for bone health as well, joints. So, and also the second thing is they don't need a lot of resources to grow. So we were trying to see whether they grow well or not. So it has to be enabled to do science in space. So it was done in a very different way, but they did grow quite well while I was in space. Yes.
Right. So so after we saw that you had a photograph of India, the Earth, and all that. So when you were going, many times everybody is of different nation. So when you go together over there, what is the feeling? Do you still have that thought of being an individual national, or it is like okay, we are coming out of it and now going together, and these are the people who are going to be with us for many days. So some
yes, it changes because not because of who is traveling with you, but just because of the fact that you are traveling outside of the planet. And I think that it starts right from your childhood. You derive your sense of identity from somewhere. Right? So when you are a child and going to school, for everybody in school, your home is your identity. Your parents, your siblings, you tell them that so and so. And when you leave your school, go to a college, your school becomes your identity. Like I'm from such and such school.
Right.
Then eventually, when you leave your city and go to some other city to work, the city becomes your identity. Because every step when you move forward,
smart analogy.
yes. So the previous thing kind of becomes your identity. And similarly, if you leave your country and go outside, your country always remains your identity in some way. Like the people working outside who are from India still think India is their country and their identity. Even they represent India by celebrating festivals or 26th January, 15th August. It happens. People always remain attached to it. And that is why, as an extension, when you leave your planet becomes your identity. And that transition happens very naturally. So the minute you go out and when you look back at Earth from the outside, you just feel that I'm from here, I'm from there. That entire planet. That is where I'm from. That Earth.
Yes.
So that transition happens very naturally, and it's a very strong feeling. Like it is. And so it doesn't matter who you are with, you will get that feeling. If you were to travel tomorrow, you will feel I'm from Earth.
Yeah, that's really so. Like, if I can ask you, so when we are on Earth, we think about some dream of something that we have experienced. When you went there, what dream you used to have?
I probably am a very bad person to ask this because I don't get dreams here also. Also not much dream I dream, and not something that I would remember very drastically. I sleep very soundly, very peacefully, and I rarely remember dreams. So I am not the best person to ask this. I would say. Okay.
So any memory that really challenged your training on the way to this space station?
Training itself is very challenging. It is not easy. Essentially, there is a saying in the training program that is said that astronaut training is essentially making you comfortable in being uncomfortable. Everything that you're doing is uncomfortable. Getting into the suit is challenging. It is not easy to get into the suit. Staying in the suit is not challenging. It is very constrictive. Sitting on that seat in the reclined position for 5-6 hours is not easy at all. You're wearing diapers because while you're sitting on the seat, you cannot use the system which is there on board the station. Feeling those G forces, feeling nausea, having those changes. None of it is comfortable. But you do it so many number of times that you become comfortable in experiencing this discomfort. Okay. So it becomes a normal. Okay, like today headache will happen.
It is going to happen.
It is going to happen.
So we have to get used
to it. You
to
are prepared for it. You go into this knowing that it is not going to feel good, but you still go ahead and you do that. So that is primarily what training is designed for. It makes you do it so many number of times that it becomes something that is kind of like a second nature. So it is challenging, but what I would say is in all of it, if I have to say all the different aspects of training, I would say I think the simulator sessions that we do, when we simulate failures, something has failed, how do we respond? Something has gone, what do you do now? I think those are very exhaustive and probably very challenging. To practice it and respond correctly, identifying symptoms, and I think that they are very challenging and thing to do. Also, medical emergencies are also very challenging because identifying symptoms and then responding to them as a team, that is also very challenging.
Okay, so and any message to youngsters who are looking to make career or experience what you had experienced?
Yeah, the only message is that first of all, enjoy what they're doing. Wherever they are, they should have fun while doing the activity. Because there's nothing at the end of it. ऐसा नहीं है कि you will get something and then it will become worthwhile or meaningful. So enjoy every day, whatever you're doing, have fun doing that. And the second thing I would say is that anything worthwhile, anything that gives you exponential results or really puts you out there on the map, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So don't seek for validation today, tomorrow, day after. It will not come. You have to work for some time, some years to make it happen, and then it will happen. So the ability to continue working hard and not giving up, I think that is what my message would be.
Okay. And what was the experience of your parents or family before you left and after you came? The difference.
Just before launch, obviously everybody is very anxious. Both my parents and my wife, who was there with me in US, and all of them are very, very anxious and excited, but anxious as well. And when everything happens and you come back safely and you splash down, there is a lot of happiness and also a relief of sorts, I would say. And so these are the things that I experienced there, but obviously all of them are very, very proud.
So, what was the food that you missed mostly?
I missed, actually, I'm not I don't
Really?
miss food much
Okay.
when normally on Earth, but when I was in space, I did miss because you don't taste food as well when you are in space. Your taste buds, they get subdued a bit because of you can't smell very well. So you don't get the same taste, and also the food that goes from NASA is low in sodium for your bone health reason. So I was really craving salt, when I was up there. So I was missing food when I was up there, and I requested my flight surgeon to bring some, Indian snacks for me when he comes to receive me, and whenever I splashed out.
So, is there anything like a Swiggy from Earth to
Not yet, not yet. Maybe we'll have a startup soon doing that.
Now, the most annoying sound inside the space station?
The most annoying sound is obviously that of a caution or a warning. Whenever you hear that, everything you are looking for what went wrong, what happened. That is I would say the most annoying sound which is there.
So, what was the first thing you looked out of the window from this space?
Earth, yes.
And it's damn beautiful.
Oh, it is exceptionally beautiful. Exceptionally.
So, if Earth had a single color from space, what emotional state does it represent?
Bright, cheerful, I would say. Most of it, Earth, I was there during the same time. Today when we are talking, last year, this time I was not on Earth. I was in space. So this was monsoon time last year as well. So the primary two colors that you see is blue and white. That is what you see. Yes. So really bright blue and bright white because of clouds. That is the predominant color that you see. So blue and white both, I would say, bring a very, very big smile on my face because it represents bright sunny days, probably on a beach. So I would say cheerful and bright.
What is more intimidating, cockpit of a Sukhoi or hatch opening to the ISS?
I haven't thought of them.
If Sukhoi is traveling at, let's say, very high Mach.
Yeah. So I was taking that Sukhoi to that high mark when I was sitting in that Sukhoi. So I didn't find it intimidating. I really, but yes, in the first time when you say, if we can take back that extension to the first time, I would say probably equally. Both are unknown. You have not done it before. Both are very dynamic and very different environment. So slightly intimidating, both of them, I would say, yes, for the first time. But then having done that in a number of times, now it's fine.
Now, if I have to compare a student fails in exam now and his feeling, how it is for an astronaut traveling in space, so subjected to something that happens, failure. Now, how you will define or compare such kind of.
So this is a great learning from the astronaut training and especially from the mission. I would say that it doesn't matter. That is what mission is. Even if you are in space, you are professionals. You have been selected from your country, representing your country, and you are up there. You still make mistakes. You still do things which go wrong. It is nobody is. You cannot say that if somebody will do something always right. It is not possible. So mistakes happen. Sometimes things will work out in your favor. Sometimes it will not. But I have realized this. It doesn't matter. In the long life that you have, if you have the ability to learn from it and move forward, it almost always will work out in your favor. Even if you made a mistake, even if you have failed, but if you can learn from it and move forward, it will always work in your favor. Doesn't really matter. It seems like it is a lot, but it doesn't matter.
That is it. Like I would say that the message that we should have, all of us. And last question. What is harder to maintain, physical muscles, mass in 0G, or moral humility on Earth?
Physical muscle mass is not harder to maintain. You do exercise every day, you eat food, you will be able to preserve your muscle mass. Other than, there are a few muscles which are known as stabilizer muscles, which there is no way of exercising them. You cannot do that. So you won't be able to exercise them. So other than that, it is possible to do. I think moral humility is much more harder to practice for a lot of people, and
Right.
if we can do that, the world will be a very different place.
So, like, many people say there are some different world live in space.
Hmm.
So that is something I will not, say that you should answer it, but any thought
Different. Sorry, sir, different.
So different world other than the human on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any kind
You
of
asking
signal
that if there are, in simple terms, kids ask me the same question. You're just keeping it more polished.
Right.
Are there aliens in space?
Yes,
You want to ask. I haven't come across any, so I don't know if they are there or not. But chances of life not being there, very unlikely. I feel just because of the scale and the possibility of so many possible planets on which life can exist. So to say that it doesn't exist, I think it will be very arrogant. So it may be there. We have not discovered it yet.
I see. And so many physicists work in the Big Bang kind of theory. Have you ever, in the space, saw anything which can really give this kind of indication?
You wouldn't. It is not possible for our eyes to see. Actually, that is the. So I do some little bit of astrophotography on ground as well, and the pictures that I can click from my camera, it's not possible for human eyes to see it, irrespective of how clear the sky is. It is how we are designed. So it is not possible for us to directly observe anything. It is only through advanced instruments that we are observing these, and we are proposing that this would have been the thing. There would be something, some way in which we can prove, like theory of relativity has been proven time and again by observations. It has been happening. But when it was being proposed, there was no way to know it is true or not. It is something like that. Over a period of time, we will have probably ways to know whether it is right or not. But the scale is just it does baffle you. How can it be that it is so vast and so old that.
So did you also do yoga over there?
Yoga means it is very easy, I would say. Meditation and all is really easy. If you sit by the window and look at earth, you just you can, nothing else comes to your mind. It is very easy to just forget everything.
Okay, so with this, many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
It is great talking to you, and definitely we will come back to you for the space bachelor program.
Yes, please do.
Thanks a lot, viewers, for watching a very special episode of Shubhanshu ji, and it is he's so humble that he came all to IITH and giving time for this conversation. Thanks a lot. We will come back again with special guest.